like to go through the various focus group reports, and I have some recommendations of things that should fall off the table. I have some recommendations for things that I specifically would like the staff to consider as priority items, that I'd highlight those for action in a fairly short order. And then, so to the chair, I don't know how exactly you would like to do this.
Okay, well, I think it's a good idea, like, to remember again, we're in a committee situation. So as one member of the committee, there's trustees have ideas, and then, other trustees may have other ideas, and other people may have other ideas. So you're free to put out your ideas, and you're free to submit them to staff as your ideas. And basically, if the committee wants to consider your ideas and put more of a committee stamp on them, then we can one at a time do that. So I'll just say carry on.
All right. I'm going to start with the economy focus group, just because that was the first one in our binder, and as I worked through them, there were just a couple of things that I would like to make a comment on there. A great many of the things in the economic sustainability, jobs and tourism focus group report really, as one of their first recommendations makes, they speak to a strategic plan and the need for a strategic plan. This is really different from an official community plan because it has implementation goals and targets in mind. And I think a lot of the stuff that the economy focus group did more properly belongs in a discussion of a strategic plan than in the official community plan. But there are a couple of things that I specifically want to draw attention to. One is in item 612, it's bullet number 3, that says we should discourage non-residential speculative ownership. Well, despite my personal view about wanting to discourage non-residential speculative ownership, that is certainly something that we don't have any legislative authority to control, who buys land on this island. So I don't think that should get any consideration, and I'd like to suggest that we take that off the table. I would specifically like staff to comment on all of the 11 ideas in the recommended actions under item 6.1.3. I'd like to see all of those in some detail. There is an item under 6226, miscellaneous policy ideas. It's item 3 that suggests that there should be a tourist tax on the island. I want to suggest that the staff not consider that idea any further. Not necessarily because I don't think a tourist tax has some merit. Maybe it does. I don't know. There are a lot of small municipalities in British Columbia that have been collecting a tourist tax for many years, and they use it either to promote tourism or to provide infrastructure that helps with tourism in their communities. But this, again, a tourist tax is not something that the local trust committee or trust could impose or collect. And there is a study now underway, a joint study with the Capital Regional District, Salt Spring and the Southern Gulf Islands, the Islands Trust, and the Chambers of Commerce from those islands as well. This study is underway to look more broadly at tourism, and the tourist tax idea. It will be one of those that the consultant who's been hired to do that job will be asked to consider. So with respect to the official community plan, I'd like to suggest that we take that item off our table for future consideration. That's all I have under econ.
So that's it? At this
Would you like to carry on?
Trustee Lamb?
A matter of procedure, if the committee is going to make a decision or direct staff to take these things off, we should have a resolution, and we could do that.
Okay, well, it's up to you how you want to, how you want to consider the discussion, or what you want to hear, or if you will ask the 2 local trustees, actually, you can make motions and get them on the floor for discussion, and then we'll vote on them. That's the way you wish to proceed.
I think if George goes through the list, maybe frame them in the form of a resolution to direct staff to.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay, and again, as I said at the beginning, my role here mostly, the trustees are the quorum, so they can decide if they disagree. And then I've sort of stated that I'm listening for agreement on things. So if trustees disagree on things, if it defaults to status quo, I'd probably go that way.
No, I'm happy to have your suggestion, and I think we should probably do it by means of resolution so that for the public,
So it's a
everything
clear-
is really clear.
And it's
So,
also a clear message to staff what not to spend time on.
right.
Okay.
So I would like to therefore recommend that staff give no further consideration to policy idea 6.1.2, item 3, the discouraged non-residential speculative ownership.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Did you wish to discuss this further?
No.
So you're in agreement. Are you ready to vote then? All those in favor? Okay.
Okay, then I would also like to request that that staff no longer give consideration to the idea of the tourist tax in item 6.2.2.6, item 3.
Second.
Okay, and have you written these down? I'm going to ask
I
for the minute
do
taker.
have them written down. I'd be happy to give them to you, Kate.
Thank you. Okay, because we want to make sure that the minutes accurately reflect and rather than have her read back and forth.
Yes,
your-
no, I'll be
And
happy.
so you'll make sure they're in writing, okay?
Yes.
For the minute taker, thank you. Okay?
Okay. Can I move on to the population, housing, and stuff?
We
Oh, we
haven't
did
voted.
vote. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you've moved and seconded it. You don't wish to discuss it.
Yeah.
It seemed like you look like Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, moving on to population, housing, and settlement patterns. Here's the first of the contentious issues. I would like to suggest that we remove from consideration the proposal to downzone 20% of the densities on existing properties, and I want to speak to that for a minute.
I'll second it.
Okay, so you moved and seconded, and you wish to speak to motion for hearing?
This proposal was in part grounded on an idea that by, in a way, recapturing or reclaiming those densities, we might be moving those densities from that essentially large and vacant, undeveloped land and putting them into places where that development is more appropriate, energy efficient, compact, whatever. Suites in houses, greater density in the villages and whatnot. And this information was not available to members of the focus groups when they were doing this, but as we later got better and better information with respect to mapping and density patterns on the island, it turns out that if we were to do that, we would reclaim, I'm going to use that word, about 200 densities. That's all. It's very little return, in my opinion, for the anguish, upset, sense of disentitlement that it gives to particularly large landowners. And I think when we deal with this issue through density transfer or some other manner, I think we should afford those opportunities to people who have lots that can't be divided into as many as 5 lots, because when you talk about removing 20% of density, it can only apply to places that can be divided into at least 5 pieces, or there's not 20% to deal with. So I think the return is too small, I think the concern is too great, and I think it would not necessarily achieve our objectives. So that's why I'm requesting that the staff no longer consider that removing the 20%